All right, thanks, Bree. And I'll share my screen. You see that okay?
Yep, we can see that just fine.
Okay. Well, thanks again, everyone, for joining. And this is part of what we hope to be is a series of various SalesLogix version 8 presentations and demos. We've done a few of them already that you can find on our YouTube channel. If you search Customer FX on YouTube, you'll find several hundred videos up there now. And a lot of them do deal specifically with new features and functions of version 8. But today what we decided we would like to do is just sort of showcase what we think are some of the most interesting and the neatest features, usable features that are part of it. So this is far from a complete overview. We wouldn't have enough time to do all that. There's literally hundreds of new functions and features that are part of version 8. So we're just going to focus on what we think are pretty important ones and kind of a top 10, as it were. And I know a lot of you are wondering maybe where's version 8 at, and that's a great question. And right now it's in release candidate number 3, and that's actually coming to an end here. We're literally expecting any day now that they're going to announce the gold release, and that's hopefully in lieu of yet another release candidate round. So we are anticipating that it'll be available yet this month. And so we'll make sure we let everybody know and put some updates on our website when that happens. And Sage probably will alert you to that as well. All right, well, with that said, I'm just going to dig into what we wanted to show you today and sort of go through the list of different highlighted features. The first one is scrollable grids in tabs. And they've done a really good job with this. Previous versions of SalesLogix Web, you had to go through pages of records. And so if you landed on a tab, for example, this Notes History tab, where there's, I don't know, 23 or so records, you would have had to have clicked through a paging button and moved from page to page to page, which sort of took a while and was sort of clunky and not real intuitive when there was lots of one-to-many records to show. So what they've done in many, not all of them, but many, many of the one-to-many tabs, and by the way, if you have a custom tab, you can activate the same type of functionality where instead of going through pages, you can just scroll up and down. So you can see I can just grab my scroll bar and move through all 23 records because they're all presented to me on one screen. And we think that's just a really great feature. It works great if you have a scroll button on your mouse. It just makes it easier than have to click buttons and sift through things. And especially if you're going to resort on some of these column headers, you truly get to see all the records all rolled up on one nice screen. And again, that's sprinkled throughout version 8, is they've gotten rid of all those paging style of tabs, which nobody seemed to like, and have gone more to this kind of typical scrollable view, which we think is great. The next thing they've added, which I think is also a great feature, is checkboxes in the list view. And so what does that mean? So I've gone to the contacts area now, and it brought up a list view based on the current group that I have active. And this is a user preference, which I turned on. And what that preference does is it adds this checkbox over on the left column so that in previous versions, you had to be really good at highlighting the first record and holding down either Control or Shift. And you had to be real diligent about selecting records, which was sometimes kind of tough when you were looking at big lists. So what they've done is added this checkbox, so instead of having to go through that rigmarole, you could just put a check mark next to the records that you want to highlight. And the reason you would do that is because you wanted to do something with those records, like build an ad hoc group, promote them to a dashboard, and or export the 3 records I highlighted to an Excel file. But then the other feature they've added that's on our list is the ability to do a bulk email to these selected records without having to first highlight them or build a group and then go through the whole mail merge template functionality, which was the only way you could send a bulk email in previous versions. So now you can just be in a list, highlight the contacts and leads that you want to send an email to, and click the email button, And because I have Outlook open, you can see it automatically threw in those 3 email addresses of those 3 recipients with 1 click. And now if I hit Send SalesLogix, after I complete my email, it's going to save a history record to each one of those 3 contacts in the list. A great feature that we're really thrilled that they added in here. The next thing we're going to talk about is the calendar. And this is where they have, again, spent a lot of time really kind of modernizing it. The previous calendar was, you know, it was a calendar, but it really didn't have a whole lot of other things you could do other than kind of stare at your own calendar. And so they've rewritten the entire calendar interface now. And one of the big features, of course, is that you get to see other people's calendar and scheduled items overlaid on top of yours. So as you can see, I've highlighted Samantha and Robert, and I've checked the box next to their username, and the system automatically color codes the event as you can see it on the screen. So the blue ones belong to the administrator, that's me, and the green ones belong, or excuse me, the green ones are the administrator, the blue ones are Samantha. So I can see that at a glance that those are her activities overlaid on top of mine. And like you could before, you can drag and drop these things around, so it's got all those neat features as well. And you notice as I hover my mouse over these calendar items, it pops out a window that gives me the full view into everything that's in that scheduled activity. Another nice feature. And I can drag and drop, like I said, and move the stuff just that easily. Here's a reoccurring one. So let's open up another one of these here. I'll just double click on this particular one. Don't know what this is for sure. But the other thing we want to show you is that they've added this availability feature. So in previous versions, yes, you could invite other SalesLogix users to these meetings, but you had no idea if they had something already scheduled. So it's very much like the Outlook calendar now, in that if you wanted to add other users to this particular meeting, you can just highlight them and add them to the calendar, and it's going to show you in here whether or not Dan, who I'd like to invite, has something already on his calendar, and he does. At 1 to 1:30, he's already got something scheduled, so I may want to change the time of that if I can, and move that around to make it a little more convenient. So very Outlook-like functionality now that they've made available. The other thing you'll see in here is the ability now to schedule resources. And they've had that functionality, but now, just like you can with a user, you can actually reserve a conference room, which is listed as a resource. So if that resource is already booked by another user, I'm going to see that in here. So I get to decide in my head, okay, is the room I want available, or the projector, or vehicle, or whatever company resource I want to use for this meeting, is it available or isn't it, by simply adding it to this availability calendar. So lots of improvements in this calendaring area that we think are a great improvement as well. And same with the ability to add resources. The next thing I want to show you is the ability to make quick and easy changes to the SalesLogix screens. Now, SalesLogix, as you know, is an extremely customizable, moldable application, but you have to be pretty skilled at understanding how to do that using the application architect tools. Typically, you have to involve a developer or a business partner. And so all those capabilities are still there, except what they've done now is they've added a capability to make simple changes to the screens simple. And so you don't have to write code. You don't have to be a developer to make such changes. So the way that works is I've logged in as the administrator, which in the administrative right, I can grant this capability to other users also. But because we're logged in as administrator, I have an extra icon on every screen in the system, which lets me shift into the edit mode. So here we are on the context detail screen. I clicked on the edit mode, which is going to bring up the new form editor. And the form editor is a WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get, style of online live editor. So when I make changes in here, these are going to show up as soon as I click Save, and once the users refresh their screens, any changes I make here are going to be live in my production system. So you can see that all the fields that are available in the system, these are out-of-the-box fields, but you can add unlimited fields to the database. You can add new tables and new fields. There's no limit to that. So what you're presented with over on the very right is all the fields that are available to me, and all I have to do is drag those over to an empty cell. For example, if I want the birthday, I can drag the birthday field over to the contact screen, and now that field is going to show up on the contacts view. Now, another thing you can do, of course, is who faxes anymore. So you can say, okay, that's great, but nobody faxes. I don't really want a do not fax box. So I can make that field invisible. I don't delete it per se. I'm just removing it from the view by making it invisible. I can also disable it. So maybe I want to see it, but I don't want anybody putting data in it. Maybe it's just a placeholder field with some data or a message or something you want people to see. So you can disable it and you can make it invisible, or both, like you saw me do in this case. And when I save my changes, which takes just a second to do that, I'll save it. And then I'll go back to the contacts view. And if all things are lined up in the world of data software, you should see the change I made on the screen. And there they are. The do not fax is not visible, and the birthday field is on the screen. Now, that in previous versions, those of you that have attempted customizations, you know that's quite a project. Even to make really simple changes like that, you had to really know what you're doing to be able to dig around in the application architect, rebuild the website, redeploy the website, which you really couldn't do while people were working in the system, kind of an after-hours thing. But you saw that that change I made literally happened instantly, and all the screens and tabs in the system, for the most part, not everyone, but most of them, are all able to be edited in the very same way you just saw me do that. So that is a phenomenal feature that we think really gives us a strong advantage and should be very valuable to you who want to make simple changes without spending money to get that done. Okay, the next thing we're going to show you is the group interface, and they've done a lot of work on that also. So if I click over here on this groups button in the upper right corner, you now have a find capability. What we're finding is a lot of our customers have lots of groups. And so this list could be huge. I mean, I have one client that has hundreds of groups, so it's really almost impossible to scroll through them all and try to find things. So now you have this find feature, and so you can just type in characters in here. I just typed in an L, and so any groups that had an L in them is now what I'm seeing. And if I've had groups that were hidden from me or I made hidden, you can see those in here as well and then toggle that on and off. So again, they've really improved that part of the interface quite a bit, we think. Okay, and the last one we wanted to show was the email to group, which I did show you in the previous discussion about the list views. So I think that's everything. Bree, did I miss anything from the top 10? I kind of went through it pretty quick.
I don't believe that you did. I do have a question, if you'd like to get to that. Okay, when customizing the contact screen, can you put 2 email addresses into the contact profile?
You can. You can add an unlimited number of email fields. Now, there are 2 email fields already in SalesLogix for a contact. There's one primary one up at the top. Actually, there's 3. So there's additional email fields, email 2 and email 3 on the details tab. And you can move those to the upper part of the screen, the detail view, if you want to. And you can leave them where they are on the detailed tab. So because those are simply fields in the database, you can add email 2 and email 3, or you can add a custom email field if you want. You can add email 4 or 5, whatever you want to do. and then just drag those onto the contact screen, and they can be in both places if you want to do that. So the answer is absolutely yes.
Okay. Let me see. I'll take this from the top here. I have somebody asking if you could review the pop-up alerts.
Oh, you know what? I did miss that one, and thank you for bringing that up, whoever actually read our list. The pop-up alerts is a new feature. It was on my list, and I skipped it. And so and that's what this little orange box is up here. What it's telling me is I have one overdue activity, and if I click on that little orange box, it shows me on the screen that overdue activity. And I meant to show this too, so let me do this real quick here. Bear with me. I'm going to schedule a new to-do so you can see the pop-up, if that's a good word. So I'm just going to say I'm going to send a letter, and I want it to start, let's say yesterday, so I'm obviously past due on that one already, and I want to alarm that and click OK. We should immediately get a phone or a pop-up alert. Let me try it with a phone call just to make sure we get plenty of data to mess with here. I tried it with a phone call and it worked great. So we'll say it's today and it was due at 2 o'clock and click OK, and there is an alarm. So I should now get a pop-up. Maybe it isn't going to do it. I might have to wait a little bit longer. Well, of course, it's not doing it for me now. Worked great when I was practicing, but now today, for some reason, it's not going to show us. But what it would have done is it would have popped up this window automatically. I did click on it to make it go, and now you do see that there's 3 of them in there, so I was probably being impatient. And so it would pop up this window, and now I can decide that, you know what, this one and this one, I want to snooze them for 5 minutes. So I selected a couple of these, and I can say snooze, and now I'm down to just the one that I didn't roll over, and maybe that one can wait, you know, a day, so I can snooze that particular alarm a day by clicking on that. So now all my pop-up alarms are gone, but they're going to pop back up when those snooze alarms expire, and they're going to show back up again, and I can deal with them at that time. All right, any others?
Yeah, we do have a few more out here.
Okay.
This question is asking, is the calendar inactive with Outlook?
Yes, it is. SalesLogix comes with a standard integration with the Outlook calendar, and they have improved that even more now in version 8. And what they've done is they've enabled the ability to, when you look at attendee availability in SalesLogix, that same functionality, well, let me start over by saying, if you schedule an activity in SalesLogix, it is going to show up in your Outlook and vice versa. So if you schedule an activity in Outlook, it's going to show up on your calendar in SalesLogix as well. And so if you're inviting SalesLogix users, that's going to also trigger an invitation for that user in Outlook. So that's one of the new functions of the availability capabilities, is that is part of what is syncing between SalesLogix and Outlook, is the request, you know, for other users to join a meeting and for them to agree to attend or decline to attend. And so that functionality does synchronize in both directions.
Okay, I have another one. What happens to customization changes when you get a new release?
It depends on where and what the customization is. Anytime SalesLogix comes up with an upgrade or a hot fix or a service pack, your customizations are always at risk. And the reason we don't know the answer is every one of these service packs and upgrades touches and overwrites different screens and different scripts and functions within the system. And the database is always safe. They never overwrite or change anything in the database. They just add to it. maybe new tables and fields, but they never break data level functionality. However, if they come out with a new release that, let's say, has a new account detail screen and you have a custom account detail screen, you've made changes to it, that is going to get overwritten by the upgrade if that upgrade has a new account detail screen in it. Now, I haven't seen that, but that's just a simple example. And so your customizations are always at risk of being overwritten by something net new that SalesLogix has included in an upgrade. And so there's a tool that we use at Customer Effects where we do an examination of all the screens and views and plugins of a current system, and we compare that to any changes in that same plugin in the upgraded version. So we always produce this comparison, and you would want to do that if you're doing your own upgrades too, so that you'd know before you apply the upgrade what's at risk of being overwritten as a result of an upgrade.
Okay. Are the new editable forms user-specific or applied globally for all users?
They are global. They are not user-specific. So if I make a change as the administrator, like you saw me take that fax field away, that is going to be specific to all users. The only way to make changes specific to a user is using the application architect. That allows you to control the release of a change, and you have the ability to release it to all users or some users or one user so that you could have a one-off or custom interface where what you saw me do with the forms editor is always system-wide.
Okay. In the list view with the checkboxes, was there a box at the top to check which would select all of the items?
There is not. There is not a select all, at least not in the ones that I've come across, like in the all accounts list view, for example. They don't have that. Now, you still have that capability. Yes, there's not a box that does that, but you can still highlight the first record, scroll all the way to the bottom of the list, and hit your shift key and, you know, grab the last record. And so you still have that select all capability, and you certainly wouldn't want to sit here and check 1,000 checkboxes one by one. And so unfortunately, no, but you can still do it by holding down the shift key.
Okay. If you have a custom field in your database in version 7.x, is the simple form editing you demoed going to show that field is available, or just the standard fields?
All your custom fields are going to show up there as well. So that, yeah, good question. If you created any custom fields or tables or fields within tables, those are all going to be available to you. And so what I would say is, if you do decide to upgrade to version 8 and you had some custom fields that were showing up on some of those screens, I'm now going to go out on a limb and say it's going to be really easy to put those back, because you can just go to that account form, for example, find your custom field, drag it onto the screen where it used to be, and there you go. Because the data is still going to be there, and the field is still going to be there, and the data in the field. So you can, yes, just add it right back into the screen.
Okay. Are the features that we're seeing for the LAN client as well, or just the web client?
Just the web. The only new feature that they've added to the LAN is the option of a ribbon-style toolbar. So kind of like Microsoft Office, where they have the ribbon, which is nice. I love the ribbon. So you can have a ribbon-style toolbar instead of all the drop-down menus in the LAN client. And they also added the ability to add resources to a scheduled activity, just like you saw me do in the web client. But those are the only two new features that I've seen in the LAN client.
Okay. Somebody has a question. Scott, up on your screen next to the speed search box, they're wondering what the red box is next to it. Do you see that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's an indicator that I have at least one past due activity, although it's not alarmed, which is why it's not popping up on me in that little box. So it's past due, which means I was supposed to do it, well, at 1 o'clock today, and I didn't. But it doesn't have an alarm, which is why it didn't pop up on the pop-up screen. So the pop-up functionality deals with alarmed activities. The little red box up here is just showing me past due activities. And if I click on it, it does open up the past due activities tab, and sure enough, there's one call I was supposed to do an hour and a half ago.
All right. Have calendar events been added back to the top of the calendar screen?
I didn't know they were gone. I'm not sure what that question is, and I think it's regarding showing unscheduled activities. And so you can still do that, I believe, in your options. In fact, let me just check since they asked, because I think I don't have that turned on. And so what that would allow you to do is see unscheduled activities on the day they were due at the top of the calendar. Let's see. I don't see it anymore. Yeah, somebody, yeah, good point. Whoever spotted that, I don't see a way to turn that back on. You used to be able to display unscheduled activities on the calendar, and it doesn't look like you have that ability anymore. I can do history, that's true, but it doesn't show me the ability to show unscheduled activities unless I'm just missing it here. But I don't think so. So yeah, it looks like they took that away, which means you're going to have to go to your activity view rather than the calendar view to see untimed activities, which is what an event is. It's an untimed activity. So
okay.
Hopefully I understood the question.
Yeah, if the person who asked that question, if that wasn't what you were looking for, go ahead and be a little more specific and we can get that answered for you, or at least attempt to try. I have a question about the technology they're using in version 8 for Outlook integration. Do you have any information on that, Scott?
Oh, before I answer that,
Sure.
I know the answer now. I apologize. Now, instead of untimed activities showing up here in the gray area of the calendar, they moved it. It's now over here on the right-hand side. So timeless activities, which is what events are, show up over here on the right rather than at the top of the calendar. So I was afraid they took the feature away, but they actually made an improvement. I wasn't planning this. They actually moved them over here to this little timeless activity box over on the right-hand side. Okay, so what was the question about the technology for calendar sync? Yeah,
okay,
for email integration, they do have a new tool called the Desktop Manager, and that came out in 7.5.4, and it's the same in version 8. So they use the Desktop Integration Manager for email integration with Outlook. For calendar and contact synchronization, it's the same IntelliSync-based sync engine that previous versions used. They continue to improve it, and I personally use it every day, all day, and never have a problem with it. So it kind of sits in the background and it copies my stuff. And so I don't have a problem with it. I think it works great. It's the same in version 8. They have not changed the way Outlook integrates with calendaring and contacts in SalesLogix.
All right, speaking of Outlook calendars, if I move something on the calendar in SalesLogix, does it also move that event in my Outlook calendar?
Yes, it does. Yep, it's a two-way active sync. And so yes, if you edit it, move it, change it, put notes in there, yes, all of that synchronizes.
Okay. Are there any performance improvements that would make the user interface faster?
That's really, in my mind, probably the most significant thing about version 8. It is much faster. And I bought a stopwatch, and I had two systems side by side, same computer, same browser, same everything, and did some timing tests between the two. And screen changes in version 8, and it really started in release candidate 2, were 1 to 2 seconds. The same screen changes, just general navigating and bringing up lists and accounts and views and whatnot, are 3 to 6 seconds in version 7.5.4. So it is a many-fold improvement over previous versions, and that's a provable fact. It's very obvious to the user, and I verified it on my stopwatch that indeed it is significantly faster, at least double the speed for everything you're doing.
All right. Is the group builder now based on the entity model, or does it still look directly at database fields?
I don't know the answer to that one. That's one I'd have to ask a developer about. I'm not really sure of the answer. A little over my head.
Okay. Will I lose my place in the groups if I navigate away from account? I think do you have enough information there to answer that?
Yeah, I think so. Well, the answer is no, because what happens is when you shift from a list view, for example, like we're looking at all accounts now, and if I click into, let's just pick on ABI Specialties Group, you'll notice that over on the right-hand side of the screen, it's going to show me the group that I was in. So the group is still active and still over on the right, but now we were on ABI Specialties. In fact, this is probably not a great test because I think I know what they might be asking, and I don't know the answer, but let's try it. We have a second here. So let's say that I wanted to, let's scroll down to the B's, and let's pick on Babcock. So let's say we go to his account record. So I had to scroll down to do that. And we'll bring up the detail view for them. So now we're at Babcock, and we'll go back to the list view. You notice it kept me in place over on the group list. So that part of it was honored. I didn't lose my place. But if I go back, it does go back to the top of the list. So it kept me in it when I was in the account detail view. It kept my place. But if I go back to the list view, it did take me back to the top. It didn't keep me in the B's.
All right. I have somebody who is wondering if we could take a peek at the dashboard and is wondering if there's any new features that come along with it in version 8.
I wouldn't characterize it as new features per se, but what they did do is they recreated all the dashboards except for one, the funnel dashboard. All of them now have been recreated in HTML5. So the previous ones were using an older technology, and now all the new dashboards are all being graphically created by HTML5 plugins. And what's neat about HTML5, of course, is it works in mobile browsers. So you have the ability in the architect to actually take these dashboards and make them visible on mobile devices, like an iPad, for example. So if you log into SalesLogix with an iPad now, you're going to see all these HTML5 dashboards.
Okay. Are there any new features in the customer portal or just the new skin?
No new features, just the new skin.
Okay. Let's see. Is there a way to go to a specific date in the activities view, not using calendar view? And can you now create a group from activities?
There is not a way to do that. There's no filtering other than just resorting. So there's no capability in here to go to a specific date. So if you're staring at a great big list of activities, there's no way to do that other than to sort on it. So the answer to that one's no. And what was the second part of the question?
The second part of the question is, can you create a group from activities?
No, you can't create a group of records from activities. You can create a group of records in the contacts, leads, or account view based on activities. So you can create a group, show me all my contacts that have an activity scheduled for today, but you can't do that in reverse. There's no way to say, okay, based on all these activities, build me a group of these records. I don't know how you would do that.
Okay. What about the Exchange Link tool? Will it still be supported?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Can we see what the group builder looks like in version 8?
Yeah. So if we go to back to accounts, for example, and we'll just right-click on one of these and build a new group. I don't really think it looks that much different. I don't know that they've changed a whole lot in this other than they made the window bigger, which is nice. And so here's what it looks like with the same conditions and layout and sorting and other tabs that you were used to. I'm not aware, I haven't seen anything new other than they did improve the interface a little bit, but no new features that I've found yet.
Okay. Let me see. We do have some more here. Are there any new features in reports?
If you're asking about Crystal reports, no. Other than it supports Crystal 11, it's basically the same. I don't know of any new changes in reports.
Okay. Are we able to use the Outlook integration functions with the Firefox browser, or will we continue to be limited to Internet Explorer?
What do you mean you don't like Internet Explorer? I'm trying to be funny. The answer is yes. So that's one of the big upsides to version 8 is that you can use Firefox 11, and that, to be honest with you, it's much faster. I'm using IE9, which is still kind of slow to me. It's still faster than version 8 and it was in 7.4. But Firefox 11 is really the one we recommend because, yes, all the Outlook and email integration and dragging and dropping of attachments works, and it's the fastest browser we found that's completely compatible with SalesLogix version 8 is Firefox 11.
Okay. Can the new version function on the iPad without issues? Prior, there were scrolling issues.
There are still scrolling issues. SalesLogix is actually working on that. They're actually working on some changes in the interface that are going to be coming as part of version 8 that allows the native web client application to function on iPad and Android tablet devices. Because today that's part of the problem is scroll bars don't render and they don't function properly on those mobile devices. But there's been a lot of requests for that. And so you can expect that that's coming because there's a lot of buzz at Sage about it.
Okay. Can you now filter on rep activities? I thought I saw a filter icon.
Rep activities?
Yeah, I'm assuming, like John Abbott at Abbott Limited, what he'd be referring to as a rep. Or a user.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what the question is. I apologize. But this may be what you saw is that in the activity view, you have these active filter capabilities. And so you can filter if you want. Right now, I'm looking at the administrator's activity because that's who I log in as, so it defaults to that. But you can add other users' activities, like Lee Hogan's if I want, plus the administrator. So if that's the question, all these are active filters that you can apply to the activity view.
Okay. Let's see. Will Google Chrome be available for the web browser anytime soon?
It's available now. It works great in Chrome. It just doesn't have the desktop integration. And Sage is I know working on making it compatible with Chrome. I'd have to say it's probably not real high on the list right now because Firefox works so well. But there is some demand for supporting other browsers like Chrome and Safari. And so I do know that that's on kind of their roadmap to make it completely compatible with other browsers like that. But today, no. You can use it in Chrome, works great in Chrome. You just don't have the email, desktop email integration with Outlook.
Okay, and question right after that was, what about Safari? Same answer?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. Is there anything new with service or tickets?
There is, but what I think, just for the sake of time today, we're going to plan on some more of those specific and topical demos because getting into that definitely would warrant, a demo like this in and of itself, that we would showcase specific new features and functions. Today we just tried to pick some that were sort of globally, universally high points. We're planning to do the same thing with ticketing and marketing because there are some new features and functions in those areas.
Okay, I have one last question here, and this goes back to the filtering of activities. And
yeah.
When you're on the contact detail page, can you filter on the list of activities?
Oh,
yep,
go. I know what they're saying. So we'll jump over to the contacts area, and I think I've got John Abbott here. Let's go to his activities. I'm sure he's got some. Here we go. And so the answer is yes, you do have a new filter funnel. So like you had in previous versions on the Notes and History tab, they've now added some filtering capabilities to activities as well. So you can filter by type and within a particular date range and by leader and regarding, and then apply those filters in the activity view. So the answer is yes. And because this is a customizable form, you can add other filterable fields to this view. This is exposed as something that can be modified as well if you need to filter on something other than what you see here.
Okay. I have one more question. I think we're gonna wrap it up with this one, and if any of you guys out there think of something else, please feel free to shoot Scott or myself an email, and we'll try and get that answered for you. But our last question is there any upgrade to the SalesLogix support portal, the ticket portal for our customers, not to SalesLogix? Does that make sense?
I'm not sure I understood that. Can you repeat that one, Bria? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Is there any upgrade to the SalesLogix support portal, referencing the ticket portal? Okay.
Well, there is a version 8 portal, but they really haven't changed it at all, at least that I've seen. It has a different skin. It's got this kind of sage green bar and stuff on it, but they have not changed it. So if the question is regarding an upgrade, if you do upgrade the portal and you're using the portal in, let's say, 7.5.4 out of the box, if you upgrade to version 8, there's no risk of overwriting anything because they haven't changed anything.
Okay. Well, Scott, that is, right now, that's all the questions we have. Like I said, if any of you out there think of something else